It was supposed to be a peaceful day, but as unarmed protesters marched towards the border fence, Israeli soldiers opened fire. Sharpshooters were deployed, but Palestinians, frustrated by the endless siege they live under, were undeterred. Israeli commanders say they issued warnings against approaching the border fence.
We will never shoot one bullet against anyone who stays away from the security wall. We have warned during the last few days that everyone who tries to violate the Israeli sovereignty or to infiltrate the Israeli territories will put himself and his life in danger.
But for besieged Palestinians, demonstrating next to the border is about the only visible means available for the world not to forget their plight.
We live under immense pressure. That is why the people explode. The blockade and the siege led to the explosion. We either choose to live properly or to die. We have no space. We have no alternatives but to explode. We have nothing except the oxygen in the air.
Land Day is considered the first Palestinian popular uprising. For the past 42 years, Palestinians have been commemorating this day. But this year, after Trump's declaration over Jerusalem, it has taken greater significance. It all started here in northern Israel, after thousands of hectares of land were confiscated from Palestinians back in 1976. 6 Palestinians were killed then. Abdel-Hamid says nothing has changed since. Palestinian land is still being taken away, now more than ever.
We came to commemorate this day because we have to confront the state. It's important to remember our martyrs, and it's important to save our ownership of the land. I personally think we should resist until our last breath. We shouldn't negotiate anymore. We shouldn't give up our rights. We need to find new ways.
Many of the people living in Gaza today are refugees, and they're demanding their right to return home. Several tents have been erected a little further away from the border fence for what is being called the Great March of Return. People are vowing to stay here until May 15th. By then, the U.S. is due to have moved its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Funerals will be held in Gaza today for the 17 who were killed during the confrontations with the Israeli army on Friday. Now, there is a lot of anger among Palestinians, not only in Gaza, but also in the occupied West Bank, and also among those who are living within the borders of Israel. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas yesterday has made a very short but quite stern statement. He called for an investigation into what happened, and he actually called for international protection for Palestinians. Now, we know also that Kuwait had asked for an emergency meeting at the Security Council, and that the head of the Security Council, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, has asked for an investigation. Now, the Israeli army says that it only shot at protesters because they were hurling either petrol bombs or some of them were armed. So far, the Israeli army says also that it had been warning protesters not to get close to the border fence. Certainly, the army was on edge because throughout the week and the days leading to Friday, there had been several breaches of that fence with people actually from Gaza making their way into Israel. Now, protesters say that they will continue, they will go back to the fence today and in the coming days, and certainly those who are staying in those tents that are erected all along the border, well, they say that they will stay there until May 15th. Now, May 15th is a day that Palestinians refer to as Nakba, which means catastrophe. It's also the day where the state of Israel was created. So certainly one does expect a lot of tension continuing all along this border here behind me.